Hi, everyone. Jeff Yasteen here. Welcome to a new edition of Market Insight. And I'm joined by my friend and colleague, Ian King, editor of Automatic Fortunes. Ian, welcome.
Thanks, Jeff. Nice to see you.
Same here. I wanted to talk to you because you recently wrote an article where you talked about a huge investment opportunity you see in a trend that we call big data. And I was wondering what you mean by that, big data.
Yeah, really, it's an all-encompassing term that talks about, how we collect data, how we store it, how we analyze it, and most importantly, how companies profit from it. So, I've been really interested in this space for the last decade, and I recently wrote an article for Sovereign Investor Daily about how much data there is in the world right now and how companies are kind of using it to drive their profits and optimize their businesses.
Talk a little bit more about that because, as you said, the concept of big data has been out there for a while now. But as the internet has become, the central part of our lives for work, for home, for travel, for fun, everything, of course, it's moved to the center of our lives. So with big data, what's different now versus 5 years ago or 10 or 15 years ago?
What's different now about big data, Jeff, is that everyone is carrying one of these right now. And there are 2.5 billion smartphones in the world. And this has your GPS location on it. It, has a motion sensor. It knows how fast you're traveling. So there's a lot more information that's being transmitted to companies that work in the cloud, obviously, than there was 10 years ago when you were just at home using your internet. And another huge thing about big data is that the Internet of Things is now connecting about 100 million new devices per month to the cloud. So think about all that information, these devices, and these can be just, your Alexa at home that you're asking questions to and searching, or they could be sensors that are in the middle of a farm somewhere that are measuring rainfall. So data is just everywhere around us right now, and it's only getting bigger in the next decade.
So, broadly speaking, where are the investment opportunities in this sort of thing? How do we think about this that allows us to see the kinds of investment opportunities that you do?
Well, obviously, for the last 10 years, the largest companies in the world have been built around data. So think about Facebook. Facebook takes all your likes and all your social connections and uses it to allow advertisers to better sell you products. Apple is another company that's based on big data. They sell you a piece of hardware, obviously, that collects the data, but then Apple also monetizes the data towards you by suggesting apps you might want to download, and Apple takes a cut of all that service revenue. Google is another company that's built just on big data, where every search you make, Google stores and then is able to kind of customize your searches with ad links to companies you might want to become a consumer from.
Well, with those big companies you mentioned in mind, uh, someone watching this might think, well, look, those companies have been out there for a decade or more, uh, earning money for their shareholders, becoming huge stocks and huge companies through that process. Is there anything new? Are there new opportunities? And I know you can't tell us the specifics of those stocks here, but is there still new ground to mine, so to speak, in this area of big data that investors can still get in on?
Absolutely. So what you want to think about is all this information that's been it goes into the cloud, and this is just a big unstructured data set, right? And so think about it like pulling crude oil out of the ground. You really can't put crude oil in your car, and it's not going to fly an airplane. But if you refine that crude oil, you get gasoline, you get airplane fuel, you get all kinds of different chemicals and products and plastics out of a barrel of crude oil. And so there are companies that are actually refining this data that's going into the cloud. And let me just give you a statistic, Jeff. This industry is set to grow at a 61% compound rate from 2018 to 2025. And that's the amount of data that's in the cloud. So there's going to be so much information that needs to be refined and that is going to have practical use cases for companies and for consumers in the next decade. That, this, we're really at the tip of the iceberg here with the data refining companies.
And I think that's a great thing for us to keep in mind going forward here, because as we both know, if you're looking for places where you're going to have the best opportunity to make money, you want to focus on sectors where there's that rising tide, so to speak, floating all boats, and you're picking really the best boats of the bunch in that respect, if I can extend the metaphor just a tiny bit further. And that's really the key here. This is something that's not ending. It's just getting bigger and bigger. It's like talking about buying a car maker stock in 1925 when the boom is already 10 or 15 years old, but it was really still just getting started in that respect.
Sure, I couldn't agree with you more, Jeff. And it's not just Facebook, Apple, Amazon, Netflix, and Google. There are new companies coming up that actually have more precise machine learning and are able to refine this data even better than we have in the past. And this space just keeps evolving every single year. The last 5 years ago, I was consulting for a company that did this type of machine learning, and we were producing alternative data that hedge funds could actually use to make actionable investments in the markets. And I can't go too much into the work that we did for some hedge funds, but it just lets them just have a step ahead. And this is the same type of information that all companies can use to stay a step ahead of their competition. And there's a couple of public companies in particular that really focus on this, and their software as a service stocks, where they basically have companies pay them a monthly or an annual fee for their software. And they just have programs that just mine the data for tendencies and for patterns that companies can use to optimize their businesses. So that's why I say data is really the new oil, because this is the energy that's going to make businesses more profitable in the future.
Well, Ian, I can't wait to read more of your material and see more of your insights, and really appreciate you coming on to Market Insight and informing us further about big data. It's just getting started. Thanks, Ian.
Thanks, Jeff. Good to see you.
And for everyone, just want to tell you we'll have a brand new edition of Market Insight next weekend. And on behalf of myself, Ian, Mike Carr, Ted Bauman, and the rest of us here at Sovereign Insider Daily, thanks for watching.